happening, everybody? Got an interesting email this morning from a customer with a 2020 Ram, and he wanted to know the top 10 things he should do to make this truck reliable. He lives here in the state of Georgia, but he's got a camper, taking his family out west, camping in the summertime. So I got to think about exhaust gas temperatures, going up steep mountain grades, things of that nature, running the AC wide open. What problems could he potentially run into? So I made a list for him, 1 through 10. And this is like a very applicable list for pretty much anybody that's gonna own that particular Ram pickup truck. 19 to 24, I think, is your range there. And so the number one thing I told him is just the factory fuel pumps are super wimpy on those trucks. So the phone call I'll get every time is, my fuel economy's gotten really bad. Like, I was getting 18 and now I'm getting 12, and that's a dead lift pump. The factory Dodge lift pumps have been like this since 1999. They mounted them on the side of the block. They would burn up, melt, relocate them back to the tank. They'd still burn up and melt. I've had 3 of them fail on me personally. So the first thing I do on a Dodge truck, anybody that's looking to upgrade it, throw a FAS on it. These first 2 parts kind of go hand in hand. The factory fuel sending unit on these Dodges, they only have 1 pickup port. And so when you put a FAS on there, pulling through these fittings, it sucks this bucket dry. And so it's a major issue on the Dodges. Duramaxes don't have that problem. Some of the Fords can have that problem, your older 7.3 Super Duties, your 6.0s, but the Dodges, it's really a major issue. I was literally stranded in the state of Oregon because we're too dumb to pump our own fuel there, apparently. And I had a 1/4 tank of fuel left. FAS sucked the bucket dry, just installed it, didn't know anything about this. I literally spent the night in my truck in the middle of January in Oregon. It sucked. So if you're gonna do a FAS, do the Fleece SureFlow sending unit. It's got 2 ports that allow fuel to flow into it from the bottom, and they're returning the FAS return fuel into the bucket. That thing's never going dry. You're never gonna run out of fuel at a 1/4 of a tank. So do a FAS for the fuel economy and horsepower upgrades and the longevity upgrades, because it's going to protect your fuel injectors, your CP3 pump if you have one. If you have one of these trucks with a CP4, get rid of that thing as fast as possible. Convert it to a CP3. I believe that was a factory recall. I don't know if they're still doing that or not. If they're not doing a recall on your VIN number, when you call your local dealership, get a hold of me. We can get you a CP3 conversion. That's not on my list because most of them have been done. But the FAS and the fuel sending unit, number 1 and number 2 upgrades that I would do on a 2019 newer Ram. Once you got the fuel taken care of, my all-time favorite, a SMB Intake, get one of these guys on there. It'll take a lot of strain off the compressor wheel of your turbo. A super restrictive filter, we've proved through testing over the years. I worked with BD Diesel years ago on this. A super restrictive filter will cause the compressor wheel to suck forward in the housing, and you're more likely to get premature bearing wear. So get a good, breathable aftermarket filter on there. You wouldn't believe the crap that I've seen go through a factory air filter. As restrictive as they are, they don't fit well. And a lot of times you can pull the air intake tube off the turbo and you can run your finger around the inlet of the turbo and it's just got this really fine dust. This stuff's not good for your engine. So get the SMB on there. That'll take care of your filtration issues. The next upgrade or recommendation is a bulletproof EGR cooler. I know that's not fun. I know it's not sexy. It does nothing for horsepower. But if your factory EGR cooler fails, it's a nightmare. If you run that coolant mixed with soot down through that diesel particulate filter and that SCR, you're spending thousands of dollars. So spend the money up front, get a bulletproof EGR cooler on your truck. I've never seen one fail. I've been selling them for years. They've got a really cool design. Maybe we'll try to put like a picture or something or slide a picture of their woven core. It's pretty cool. But that'll save you from thousands of dollars in repairs in the exhaust system, wipes out sensors. It's just stupid. So, I don't care if your truck's brand new and it's got 30 miles on it. That EGR cooler is a ticking time bomb. I've seen them fail at 10,000 miles. I've seen them fail at 450,000 miles. So there's just so much inconsistency there. I would make it one of your top priorities to get that thing off your truck. Once you get the bulletproof EGR taken care of, there's another major failure point on these engines. The factory grid heater has 10mm nuts that hold the grid to the intake lid. And what'll happen is those things will vibrate loose, fall down in the grid heater, and they can't fit through. The nuts are too big to fall into your engine. But what does happen is you key cycle on and the grid heater gets glowing red hot, and that nut sinks into it, it melts into it a little bit. And then it gets stuck or welded in there, and then you shut it off, and however many cycles, we don't know because you can't see this thing, you can't monitor it. So what eventually happens is with enough key on cycles and letting that grid heater heat up, that stainless nut eventually falls down your intake tray, rolls to the back of the engine, and gets sucked into cylinder number 6. Wipes out the valves, gets on top of the piston, your motor's destroyed. At the very least, you might be able to reuse the block, but your head's trashed, the valves are trashed, everything's trashed, tens of thousands of dollars in repair. It's just not worth it. So get you a Banks intake, the ram, you can get it with or without the ram air. Ram air looks sexy and it relocates the heater into there. You can get it red, black, or raw, but definitely get that done sooner than later. Once you got the gridded heater issue taken care of, now we can start playing with the truck a little bit. Like the SMB is going to increase horsepower. It doesn't have a choice but not to. But it's not a huge jump. You'll feel it. You'll notice better throttle response. But these trucks can be very laggy. Like I get a lot of comments from customers or just people I'm talking to at shows. It's like, yeah, I got a 2020 Ram, but the thing's just a turd off the line. There's a lot of reasons for that. Restrictive air filters, DPF, EGR, all that stuff's fighting you. So put a programmer on it. There's a lot of programmers on the market. I prefer Edge products. They've been around forever. If you want to get some custom tuning, PPEI does a great job with custom tuning on these trucks, especially when it comes to the transmissions and making these transmissions live longer. But get some tuning on it. I like Edge. It's plug and play. The cool thing about Edge is it plugs in line with the factory sensor or with the factory harness. So if you did have some kind of a recall or warranty work come up and you had to remove it, every other tuning device on the market is going to leave some kind of a digital footprint behind that your dealership could potentially find. A lot of times when you plug a programmer in and program the ECM, it'll erase any previous key cycles. So you have a warranty issue and you go to the dealership, they plug a scanner in. If they know to look for that, they can go and be like, oh, you got a truck with 60,000 miles. It's only been started 4 times. Very suspicious. You're probably not going to get taken care of under warranty. That's where Edge shines through. You unplug everything, throw it in your garage, plug everything back in factory, drive to the dealership, they plug in the scanner. It didn't erase anything. It didn't actually program the vehicle. It's just capturing information, modifying it, sending it on. So that's a really good tuning option for you. Once you got the Edge taken care of, the EASX is kind of the replacement of the Edge Juice with Attitude. So the Edge Juice with Attitude had a screen that plugged in inside the truck and you could do everything off the screen. If you want that, it's a great option. The EasyX plugs in under the hood the same way that Juice with Attitude does, and then you download an app on your phone and you do all your power adjustments, tire size adjustments, check and clear engine codes, adjust timing up and down. There's so many things you can control through the app. And it's shift on fly. You can watch gauges on your phone. Your phone kind of becomes your device. So if your phone ever got smashed, broken, or you lost it, you can go get a new phone, download the app, you're good to go again. If somebody breaks your truck and steals your CTS screen, you got to go buy another CTS screen. So either way, both are great options. With the tuning taken care of, I was just trying to think of any other like stupid little things that I've seen over the years come into the shop, and one of the dumbest failures I've ever seen that caused the most havoc is the factory plastic heater hose adapter, where the heater hose clips into the piece coming out the top of the head to send hot coolant to your heater core. Mishimoto makes a CNC billet one. It's really nice, looks great, it's clean, it's cheap, it's a $100 upgrade. You can throw it on in your driveway, you don't have to go to the shop. It's a very simple part to install. It can save you a lot of headaches down the road. If that thing, it sits right next to the exhaust manifold, so if that little plastic piece gets hot, it gets brittle, you hit a really hot, deep pothole, it cracks, you're driving down the road with your camper behind you, and you're pumping all your coolant out of your engine. So it's just a bad situation, easily avoided with a $100 fix. The other thing the 6.7s really struggle with is cooling. So they have Siamese cylinders, so you don't get coolant going between the cylinders, so they tend to do okay. Cylinders 1, 2, 3, 4 is okay, it's starting to get hot, 5's getting really hot, 6 is nuclear. So a lot of times we'll see when we pull the head gaskets off, the head gasket between 5 and 6 is melted, gone, starting to be gone. It's just, you can see physical heat damage to the head gasket. Fleece makes a coolant bypass kit that takes coolant from its coldest point and sends it straight to its hottest point. So if you don't have one of those on your 6.7 Cummins, get one. Even if you don't do the rest of the list, if you don't do any of this or don't take any of these recommendations, put a coolant bypass on your truck. It's very important to the longevity of your engine. The cool thing about a 6.7 Cummins, you're gonna hear and read a lot on the forums, various Facebook pages, that they're bad about blowing head gaskets, and they are. Worse than a 6-liter in my book. They'll do it at lower mileage, they'll do it to guys that are towing, not towing. They're just very inconsistent failures. The coolant bypass helps a lot. Head studs help a lot too. So you can do the head studs one at a time. That's how I did the head studs on my 6.7 Cummins. Take out a factory head bolt, drop an ARP stud in there, torque it to factory spec. Do that until you get them all in at factory spec, and then go back through and torque them to ARP specifications. I did that to my truck with 35,000 miles on it, and I drove it to 235,000 miles on it and sold it. So it works. And that truck made 800 horsepower. Now, if you do everything on this list and you're happy with the truck, good power, good towing, good reliability, good fuel economy, you're happy with it, you want to just keep it this way and you want it to live, at the very least, my number 10 recommendation is a Category 3 68 RFE from Suncoast Transmissions. It's not going to hold 800 horsepower, but it'll hold up to these upgrades just fine. It'll hold up to heavy towing. I think they rate it for 650 horsepower. These parts aren't going to make 650 horsepower, but these parts are going to make more than factory, and you will blow through the factory torque converter if you're having fun with it. So plan on doing those 10 parts. The transmission, kind of optional to a point, but definitely recommended. I've had enough customers come back with a blown up transmission, and then all of a sudden all these fun parts they had they're not so happy anymore. So do the transmission. If you want to go beyond that, Fleece makes a Cheetah turbo that's a direct drop-in. Nothing has to be modified or changed. It will support up to 650, 700 horsepower. I think they claim 700 horsepower, but I've definitely taken it to 650 and it runs great. You get to keep your exhaust brake. Doesn't require custom tuning. If you want to do a little bit bigger injectors to get the most out of your Cheetah turbo, you know, do a set of S&S, makes great injectors. Dynamite Diesel, great injectors. Industrial injection. There's a lot of options out there. Really, it just comes down to what's in stock when the customer calls me on that. You can do an upgraded, modified CP3. If you do the Cheetah turbo, the injectors, and the modified CP3, you're going to be nipping at that 600, 650 horsepower range, and that transmission will live there. So if you got a 2020 Cummins, 2019 to 24, whatever, you got other questions beyond what we touched on in this video, hit me up in the comments. We'll be happy to get you some answers.